I'm Ben Brookhammer, and you're listening to The Ben Brookhammer Show. Well, welcome back to the show. Lots happening in our region economically, from budget issues to proposed solutions that fall short, and promises made, promises broken. I'll be talking about the St. Louis County budget issues, fiscal and transit policies that are being pushed in the city of St. Louis, and some more taxing ideas coming out of a city within the county, specifically Webster Groves, the same place with that massive comprehensive plan I went over not too long ago. So let's get into it. The budget issue in St. Louis County, it's been heating up. And for the past several weeks, the county council has had to look at opportunities to drastically shift the direction we are heading in. We're heading towards bankruptcy. It's within months. They rejected Sam Page's budget, and they are looking to make significant changes that will hopefully steer us away from bankruptcy. Now, I was at the county council meeting in Clayton on Tuesday, just this past week, and I spoke about the budget and the concerning path that we're on. And I shared with the council the facts. We have a county executive who acknowledges that we have financial problems and that our fiscal problems have been building for years. Yet he hasn't fixed them. Yet he wants to give departments more than they even asked for, by over $5 million. Yet wants us to pass an online sales tax measure to see how it goes, knowing all too well it falls short in keeping up with the deficit. For example, this tax measure, if it were to be approved, has projected revenues of $45 to $75 million. Our current deficit today, $81 million. And it's only growing. And there is even a wider gap in the fiscal year starting in January. He also wants to spend settlement money as a Band-Aid rather than fixing the root cause of our problems. Now, the one thing with settlement money and the account that it's sitting in is once it's spent, it's gone. We can't use it to improve our community. We can't use it for projects. We can't use it for the interest. We can't use it to improve the lives of those in this community. It's gone forever. It doesn't take an economist to know that raising taxes hinders economic growth. Why? Well, when people are taxed more, they have less to spend. They have less disposable income. And less spending means a slowing economy. Raising taxes cannot be the solution. For years here in this county, we've consistently been presented this idea that raising taxes is the solution to our problems. Well, if it worked and solved our financial shortfalls, and this goes for anywhere in the country, we wouldn't need to keep doing it. It's only making life more expensive. And what do we have to show for it? We have a county of 1 million plus people with an eye shot of bankruptcy, just months away. We have a county that spent $90,000 to update our county logo and tagline. That was the marketing agency cost. That doesn't include the signage updates, vehicle logo updates, letterhead, websites, and everything else associated with updating branding. We have an inflated government with a county executive adding more to department budgets than the experts within those departments have even wanted or asked for. We have a push for control. When we witness that with the Prop B initiative and the related ongoing court case with the theft to pay for its opposition. And all of this out-of-touch leadership. He does have some clear plans, though, like spending $750,000 on a climate action plan. He has plans for a program called Save Lives Now, which will cost taxpayers $1.7 million. But St. Louis County Police, they already have a program just like this, currently in existence. He didn't want the senior tax freeze. Actually, he fought the council hard on it. And now that it's a reality, he's taking sole credit for it, at least the parts that are working correctly. We have a lot of problems. And here's an example of a narrative that's being pushed. Sam Page, just a couple weeks ago even, said that we should be proud we haven't raised the real estate tax rate in years. What he doesn't tell you is that behind the curtain is a calculation that is artificially driving up dollar amounts. I've talked about it on this show before. My personal lived example highlights this. And unfortunately for me, my taxes were going up and I had to experience it to be able to showcase it on this program. Similar comparables are being replaced with higher priced, larger homes. For me, example, this past summer, all 57 comparable home sales were ignored within my own reassessment. And instead, larger, more expensive properties were set as my baseline. This math equation, it's resulted in a near 32% increase in assessment in recent years. So when we look at the media reporting and the thousands of people in our community, our neighbors, who are absolutely shocked when they open their mail and they see these increases, we have to ask how widespread is the same application? Statistically speaking, with what we know, I can't be the only one. And more on taxes, and I shared this on Tuesday. When we look at sales tax, this is a tax that hits everyone with the same percentage. But it makes a bigger impact for those making less, which means it hits low income households the hardest. Looking at the Federal Reserve data, 9.6% of the population of St. Louis County lives below the poverty line. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 12.6% of households make less than $25,000 a year, and 18.5% make less than $35,000 a year. Adding a sales tax for online purchases, or even increasing the sales taxes we have now if that were to ever be presented, what will the impact be for the nearly 1 in 5 households who make less than $35,000 a year? Now, there's a lot of attention on this budget, and there's a lot of attention on the rhetoric out there. This was called out specifically by council members on Tuesday. Number one, Sam Page, he can't veto what the council comes up with, and he's threatening to do so. And we have a walkthrough. The council members brought us through this entire process. So here is Councilman Dennis Hancock. He's the vice chair of the council representing District 3. Here's what he had to say on Tuesday night. Take a listen.
And now he threatens to veto any budget reductions that he doesn't agree with. Even a cursory reading of the county charter clearly shows that he doesn't have the authority to do so, which means yet another lawsuit that he will, in all likelihood, lose. This year, for the first time, we publicly heard the word bankrupt used to describe the future of St. Louis County. We can no longer continue to spend more than we take in.
And here's Councilwoman Webb. She represents District 4. She's also the chairman of the Budget Committee. She had a lot to say, and it's a little bit long. I'm going to play all of it, but it paints a picture of what got us here. She talked about blame, the threatening of job cuts if the council doesn't do what Sam Page wants, failed trust, and the process that's happening to get us out of this mess. I'm going to play it all, and you can hear directly from her. Take a listen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all my peers so I don't have to read my Easter speech, but I'm going to give it to you straight with no chaser. We set up a process earlier this year because from the time when I was chair and when I arrived, we knew that there was a problem with this budget. There have been articles about blame. There's no blame on this council. What happened was this council misplaced their trust. In the midst of a pandemic, when decisions need to be made for good management and to take care of the people of St. Louis County, this council, even though all of us wasn't here, but the council in general made a decision to trust the county executive and put in his hands $173 million from CARES Act, which to this day we don't have a count of. And then once again, this county council, not blame, but mistrust, when ARPA funding came through to get us to recover from COVID, this council off the top said once again, we will try again to work in good faith with you, Sam Page. And we gave the county executive, $100 million with the promise that we're using this budget to fix the deficit. And it didn't happen. And then this council, when I was chair, began to take steps to try to reduce the spending. And I don't know if you remember those headlines. Oh, but you're going to take people's jobs away. Oh, you're going to stop services. Sound familiar? And still again, the county executive misplaced this council's trust and mismanaged this St. Louis County completely financially. So what we have done, and I thank my peers for their trust because I drive them crazy too, but I needed us to have more than surface knowledge. So each of the 6 of us, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, decided to take on each department and dig deep, have interactive meetings with the department heads to get subject matter experts' inputs. They are the subject matter experts. We work with them. And I'm giving you this background because the other day we was having a press conference or press session, and we was explaining how what everything that's going into this budget, what we have to look at, all of the things we have to take in consideration. And I heard a reporter say, that's too complicated for a headline. That's just it. We're not doing headline work here. We're doing real work here. And so I'm sorry I can't get into your one-line headline, but this is what real work looks like. And I'm not going to be rushed or bullied or anything else to come out and stand before press until we got it all right. So first, I want to put or slay the fear-mongering. And it's really disrespectful and hurtful that at the holiday seasons, when workers are trying to take care of their families, when they're trying to plan and make sure their families have what they need, you want to put out there that we're going to fire people. The furthest from the truth. That's why we went line for line to ensure those employees that are doing charter statute work are getting their pay raises or increasing their pay range and their salaries. So that's the furthest for the truth. So every employee, this is not for the cameras, this is for the employees of St. Louis County. You are good. We are ensuring that you are good by going through those thousands of lines one by one to ensure that your salaries are taken care of.
And the last bit I'll play from Tuesday night is Councilwoman Rita Days. She's the chair of the council. She gave her thoughts as well. Take a listen.
The last thing, and most of this has been said by everyone, everyone needs to understand what the St. Louis County Charter says. There are some things that we are required to do per charter, but there are a lot of things that we do here that we are not required to do. They're nice things. They're good things if you just want to be happy and make people happy, but those are not required things that we have to do. And I think it's important that we understand the difference. We've been told people are going to die. You're going to defund the police and all those kinds of things, which are just veiled threats and try to make people get upset and, start calling us, oh, you're not being responsible. Oh, you're not doing this. A lot of people have confused a lot of the things that have been given out. We have projects that were given out through ARPA funding. ARPA funding has nothing to do with this general revenue.
Now, Sam Page, he couldn't address any of the concerns brought up on Tuesday night, not of the public, not of the council members, because he was absent from arguably one of the most important meetings of the year, where we are on the brink of bankruptcy, trying to recraft a budget that is in complete financial distress. And he was absent. Now, the general fund, the health fund, the parks fund, those are the big 3 where we still have some concern. And there will be more to come this upcoming week at the next council meeting, but that's where things were left. Shifting gears, heading into the city of St. Louis, fiscal, transit policies, and the proposals being pushed. Mayor Kara Spencer, she signed legislation that puts the city's 1% earnings tax on the ballot in April. Now, this tax makes up 1/3 of the city's general revenue fund. In the renewal, it has to happen every 5 years as a result of a 2010 statewide referendum. And if voters vote no, the city will need to phase it out over the next 10 years. This tax is one that's placed on workers regardless of where they live. So non-city residents who have a lot to gain from this being phased out, they can't even vote on the measure. Taxation without representation. Other major cities that have an earnings tax or an income tax include Baltimore, Cincinnati, New York, Kansas City, among a handful of others. But this tax here in St. Louis City brought in $208.5 million in fiscal year 25, which is more than the cost of the fire department and pension, which is $84.8 million, correction and juvenile detention, $55.5 million, forestry at $11.4 million, and street maintenance at $8.1 million. So if this tax is phased out based on how voters decide in April, how will this massive hole it leaves behind be filled? Well, of course, spending cuts aren't a topic of discussion, just raising taxes. So one idea that presented to the budget committee is a 52.9% property tax increase. Another idea is to raise sales tax, increasing it just over 4%. That would raise sales tax from the current 9.679% to 13.701%. Other considerations the city government would need to keep in mind are its credit risk, the impact on TIF developments, further budget challenges such as keeping a balanced budget while also funding its capital needs. And speaking of taxes, there was a tax that was passed in 2017, specifically for the Metro Green Line expansion. This was a $1.1 billion proposal for a new Metro line, the Green Line, which would run north to south in the city. Well, this project was canceled earlier this year due to cost and funding stream concerns. $1.1 billion for 6 miles of track and 10 stations. In 2017, St. Louis voters approved a sales tax increase that set aside 60% of the proceeds to expand Metrolink and receive support from Mayor Tashara Jones and St. Louis County Executive Sam Page. So what happens to the $96 million in tax revenue raised from this half-cent tax? The sales tax is still in effect, though plans to use the money have been halted. So it's just building. For what? Well, Mayor Kara Spencer, she wants to redirect these funds towards bus rapid transit, which commonly would be referred to as BRT. They say it would be cheaper and faster to build. But this shift, it's triggered a high-stakes confrontation within the Board of Aldermen, specifically with President Megan Green. She argues that voters must approve any redirection. And so for now, if you're shopping in the city of St. Louis, you're being taxed on this. The money is just sitting there. How will this land is a complete unknown. And the last topic of this episode, Webster Groves and what's happening there. More of the same, a push by a city council and the mayor to create more taxes, plural. We had the same solutions to issues of concern raised this past summer, and they're back, still for these shortfalls. You may remember my episode on the Webster Groves comprehensive plan a few episodes back, a massive catalog of ideas with no price tags shared. This is what happens when planning doesn't go as planned or expected. What taxpayers would expect. For example, one proposal, and there's two, but one of these proposals, it would raise the city's fire protection sales tax from 1/4 cent to 1/2 cent. All revenue would be directed solely to fire department operations. Why are they needing this? Well, they want to support personnel costs, everyday operations, and maintenance needs. Makes sense. Also including the replacement of a $1.2 million pumper truck, which is expected within the next 2 years. One major question that should be asked by the taxpayers is why all of a sudden a 7-figure cost for a pumper truck is coming to light. Was this not planned out in financial reporting or depreciation reviews? Or was it not determined the last time they had to purchase a truck? That these trucks have life cycles and projected dates for end of life. The second proposal, which would also create a half-cent tax, this is for an economic development sales tax. The revenue, they say, would be exclusively used for economic growth initiatives within the city of Webster Groves. A couple weeks ago, city council members, they noted that the economic development tax could be used to support business attraction programs, job training, advertising, parking garage repairs, and land acquisitions for development. If this tax is approved, Webster Groves would also create a new economic development board to study the tax's impact. Well, here's the impact taxes, and specifically the impact it has on the economy. Raising taxes does not promote economic growth. The city needs to balance their budget, though. The current budget deficit for fiscal year 26 has a revenue of $31.8 million and expenses of $40 million, leaving an $8.1 million deficit. That is a massive deficit when you look at the size of the budget. But what's the deficit per capita? Could we compare it to anything? With a population of 23,765 residents, that's $343 per resident. Well, what does that mean? Is it large? Is it small? What else could we compare it to? Well, let's take St. Louis County, for example. Their budget has been in the news quite a bit lately. And we're knowing that there are spending and revenue concerns as well within the county. So let's look at that and compare. The deficit per capita of St. Louis County is $82 per resident. Webster Groves is over 4 times as much. Now, this leaves some to wonder if this is a revenue issue or a spending issue that has brought the city into such a high deficit. And we need to look at where the priorities are. We've touched on the comprehensive plan, but here's another example. $500 rebates to residents who install solar on their homes. There are a few requirements. You have to have a project valued more than $2,500. The rebate's limited to 1 per parcel. And these are given out on a first-come, first-served basis until the total funding allotment of $20,000 is reached. This is something brought forward by the Webster Groves Sustainability Commission and something that the City Council approved back in 2023. So this has been ongoing for the 2024, 2025, and 2026 fiscal years. $60,000 in total, just giving out checks when the city simply cannot afford it. And now, with a growing shortfall, they are coming to taxpayers to save the day by raising their taxes. Now, with a sales tax, specifically with one within a municipality, it's not just the residents who pay it. It's everyone who shops within the city, regardless of where they're coming from. What will raising the city sales tax to nearly 10% do? Will it promote economic growth? Will it encourage small business owners to set up shop and invest in the city? Will it grow or hurt spending that those in the community do? Well, let's look at other high tax areas. People avoid paying more when an overall less expensive alternative is just down the street. The Webster Groves City Council is currently scheduled for a third reading and a possible vote over these tax proposals during its next meeting on December 16th. If approved, the tax proposals would appear on the ballot for voters during an upcoming special election, likely in April of 2026. So this is the climate and culture of our region. This is why it's important to vote and speak up, look at budgets, see the implications of decisions, and understanding that every decision made in government, it's related to fiscal ideas and they have consequences. So those are the facts. This is the Ben Brokammer Show. Thanks for listening, and until next time.